Have you ever looked at a different example, silver Morgan, dollar, and wondered what if this little coin could change everything? What if buried
Coins world,
deep in your
where
pocket
today
change hidden
we're
in
taking
a closer look at some incredible Lincoln pennies struck at the San Francisco Mint. From the 1979s throughout 1980s, these little copper coins with that tiny S under the date have become some of the most fascinating finds in coin collecting. At first glance, they may look like ordinary worn cents you'd find in a change jar, but don't be fooled. Hidden among them are rarities and high grade, survivors that have sold for thousands, even tens of thousands of dollars at auction. From the wartime issues of 1978 and the post-war 1970 and 1871, all the way to the final San Francisco pennies of 1975, each one tells a story of history, scarcity, and shocking value. If you love uncovering the secrets behind old coins and want to see just how valuable these S-Mint marks can be, make sure to subscribe right here so you don't miss the treasures still waiting to be. Today, we're going to take a look at the 1979 Lincoln 1-cent coin. These are just some kind of fine examples. I look at the coloring on here. It's just beautiful if you're going to get a coin that's been used. If you can get this kind of coloring on it, I think. Those are the kinds that I used to love to have it. It looks like it went through a lot of hands. It looks like it's aged and aged well. This, of course, in 79 we were still doing. The bronze, which was the copper, and zinc or tin mix. 95 copper, I believe in FeE%, zinc or tin. It wasn't until 1982 that we switched over to the zinc, kind of zinc-filled ones that just don't at the natina that that's ones do. So this is a 1979 D here in D. Of course, for the Denver Mint, and at the Denver Mint in 1979, they made a lot of these. They made 6 billion. And I mean 4 billion, 6 billion at the Philadelphia Mint. So here's the Philadelphia No Mint mark, 6 billion. Here's the Denver Mint D Mint mark. They made 4.1 billion, and they also made them at San Francisco. And they made 3.6 million. The San Francisco Mint, if you looking for these, you want the expensive versions. The San Francisco Mint version had two different types. It had a clear S and a filed S. And if you get the filled S version, then you'll it's really interesting because it's almost the same filled desk version that was used for the stamping of the Susan B. Anthony coin. So if you've seen the Susan B. Anthony coins, they have a filled and a blob version of the coins. I think this might be, let's see, there it is. So see this filled desk version here, you will see this sometimes as an S on one of the 1979 pennies, and some people say that the stamp or the rod that was used to stamp this was the same for the pennies and for the Susan B. coins. But either way, you might get a fill desk version of this on a penny, and the fill this version is worth a lot less because the blob kind of versions weren't as valued as the ones that were clear. All right, so what do we got here? All we got Abraham Lincoln on the front says, "And God we trust over his head liberty." Behind him, 1979 D for Denver Mint here. If we tip these up, most pennies, if you tip them up, you can see right down in here the engravers. Initials and Victor David Brenner first. Engraved this in 1909. There's AVD and AB here underneath. Abraham Lincoln, it's gone through a couple different versions. This is the Lincoln Memorial version. You've probably already seen the wheat years version, where the wheat ears are on the backs. The Lincoln Memorial version of the United States of America at the top. Pluribus unum here. Lincoln way down there in the center of the Lincoln Memorial, which is in Washington, D.C. There's one center at the bar, but over here on the side, there's the designer's initials for the back end. That's Frank Casparo, FG. Can you see? Those right there now. Almost 10 million of them. So compare the 10 million they made of those to the amount of Lincoln Memorial cents they made 1979. They made 10 billion. Of these two, they made 10 million of this one. So that kind of shows you where some of the olartok valuak will na. What's the value of these, just as they are probably 3 or 4 cents? This version San Francisco Mint only came out when the proof. So that's worth a minimum of probably $2. And you can find the 1851. There's a little bit of an over date here, where the date kind of gets stuck onto Liberty a little bit. And that makes this much more valuable, but even if it wasn't that way these coins are still worth 15 to 18 bucks. They made in the 1851, they made about 9. These coins here, because they made 10 billion of them, are not going to have any value at all. I think the US coin to $5 once you get up to Miss 65 or above, so a mint state 65 out of 70, then you start looking at some real money. If you can get this coin in a red now, this coin might have been red when it first came out, but it's gone through. If you get this coin, see this red hue underneath here, if the whole coin looks going to be your most valuable coin that you can get for the 1979 version, all right? So there's the D, there's the P, there's the Lincoln Memorial. Here's the old school one way, bigger. The braided hair version, oh, and I didn't show you the back of that one. United have had these wreaths on the coins for so long, and that's people ask where that wreath come from. Well, there it is. It sometimes it's an olive wreath, sometimes it's another wreath, and coins just have them all right. Coin that traditionally has been vastly overlooked in coin collecting, and that's going to be the 1975 Lincoln penny. Oh, yes, a good old 1975, and a lot of you will say, well, heck, I see these all the time, and I don't think anything of, it'll just throw them back, then they go up pretty frequently. Well, I'm gonna tell you this, okay, this is a sleeper coin for a few reasons, okay? First of all, a lot of you probably are not aware, but this is only one of 3 different denominations made in 1975. The U.S. Mint didn't produce anything for the Washington quarter, the candy $50, and the Eisenhower dollar in 1975. Actually, they skipped a date from 74 to 76. And the big reason is that the U.S. Mint they were ramping up the anticipation for the upcoming bicentennial suite of coins for 1976. So they spent the better part of 1975 just making it happen with the design, the processes, and everything like that. And as a result, only a Lincoln cent, a Jefferson nickel, and a Roosevelt dime were ever produced for 1975, okay? So the real question is, because they've only made these 3 denominations, does this make them more valuable, especially the Lincoln cent, which we're going to talk about in this video, is one of those coins that iconically were mass-produced. Okay, you're going to see here in a quick second how many millions of these coins were produced, but because they were generally overlooked, are high. Graded copies of this coin valuable? Well, I'm happy to say yes, but it does come with a little element of kind of like risk involved when you, try and find really high graded coins that you want sent out for grading or authentication, so I want to 9 millions upon billions. Thank you guys for joining in, of course. Gonna do my YouTube thing, like share, subscribe at the bell for its notification, and let's go ahead and dive right into the first coin that I want to highlight, and that's going to be in the 1975 P. This is the Philadelphia minted coin. As you guys can see, there is no actual fiscal P mint mark on these coins, and because of that, it is a Philadelphia minted coin in terms of the mintage. Again, there is no shortage of these in spite of the fact that it's one of only 3 denominations made in 1975. 5,451,476,142 total pieces were produced of the 1975 Lincoln cent, so that's worth noting here. And with the 1975, there's really no notable double dies or any sort of varieties for this date, which is why it's been kind of overlooked coin, all right? And because there's not a whole lot else going for it, here's where it really begins to kind of like get crazy, and that's all in the grading, all right? As you guys know, you could send these coins out to third-party authenticators like PCGS, NGC, and even Annex, okay? But for this particular video, we're going to focus on coins graded by PCGS for the grading aspect of the 1975 Lincoln penny. Now, the measure of value of these modern
errors and varieties also contribute to the value and intrigue of the 1980 Lincoln penny. Among the most desirable are off-center strikes, double die obverses, or reverses, and coins struck on foreign planchets or transitional metal blanks. Collectors should always be on the lookout for strong doubling on the date, Liberty, or In God We Trust, which could indicate a valuable error piece. Likewise, coins with major off-center strikes or missing elements are considered rare and collectible, especially if they also remain in uncirculated condition. Another area of interest is the role that the 1980 Lincoln penny played in the everyday lives of Americans at the time. from lunch counters to payphones, vending machines to cash registers. The penny was still an essential part of daily transactions. It was a time when a dollar, stretched further, and pocket change mattered. The Lincoln penny often carried emotional weight as well. It was the coin parents gave their kids to start their savings. Jars, the coin that rolled across countless counters, and the coin that sometimes found itself tossed into fountains with wishes whispered quietly behind it. For the numismatic community, the 1980 Lincoln penny remains a staple of early modern coin collect, easy to find but hard to master, with the perfect combination of historical importance, design continuity, and subtle variations that can excite even veteran collectors. As we explore the striking process, the role of the mint engravers, the circulation history, and market trends surrounding the 1980 penny, we discover that this humble coin tells a bigger story about America, its economy, its identity, and its people. So whether you are a seasoned coin collector or someone who just found an old penny in your drawer and got curious, this video is for you. Stay with us as we explore die characteristics, minting anomalies, collector insights, and expert appraisals of the 1980 Lincoln penny. We will hear from specialists, look at grading examples, and even explore auction results to understand how 1 cent can sometimes be worth far more than its face value in historical and collector terms. The 1980 Lincoln penny is more than money, is memory. It is meaning. It is America in copper formal, where every coin tells a story, and every penny takes you back in time. Do you remember the simple days when pennies actually bought something real? Maybe you remember reaching into your pocket as a kid and pulling out a copper coin with the image of Abraham Lincoln staring proudly into the distance. That wasn't just change, it was history in your hands. And one of those pennies might just have been the 1979 Lincoln penny. In 1979, America was going through change. Inflation was rising, gas prices were biting, and everyday families were adjusting to a new pace of life. But one thing remained the same: the humble Lincoln cent, a coin that held its ground for generations. Minted in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, this penny featured the same iconic portrait of President Abraham Lincoln that had been introduced in 1909 to honor his 100th birthday. But beyond the design, the 1979 penny carried the spirit of an era. It witnessed the stories of working Americans, young dreamers, veterans, homemakers, and students. It passed through grocery stores, jukeboxes, church collection plates, school vending machines, and even the palms of proud parents rewarding kids for their first chores. Today, we're not just looking at a coin, we're looking at a legacy. From its composition of 95% copper to its possible mint errors and collectible conditions, the 1979 Lincoln penny has become more than just pocket change. It's become a memory, a mirror of time, and for some collectors, a hidden treasure. 1979 Lincoln penny, a coin that millions of Americans carried in their pockets, spent at corner stores, saved in jars, and perhaps even passed down from one generation to the next. This humble copper coin may seem ordinary at first glance, but when you peel back its surface, it reveals a world of history, design, politics, minting evolution, and economic significance that spans generations. The 1979 Lincoln cent stands as a continuation of the Lincoln Memorial reverse design, first introduced in 1959 to commemorate the 150th anniversary of President Abraham Lincoln's birth. Designed by Frank Gasparo, the reverse of the coin features the Lincoln Memorial, while the obverse portrait of Lincoln, created by Victor David Brenner, has graced the penny since 1909, the longest-running design in United States coinage history, and by 1979 it had already been in use for 70 years. Still going strong, still symbolic, still representing the values and legacy of one of America's most iconic leaders. To understand the 1979 Lincoln penny fully, we need to examine the context of the times. The late 1970s were marked by economic uncertainty, rising inflation, and a changing global landscape. The United States Mint was adjusting to rising metal prices, shifting public demand, and growing technological advancements. The 1979 Lincoln cent was struck primarily in Philadelphia with no mint mark, and in Denver marked with a small d below the date. Millions upon millions were produced, but within those mass strikes lie hidden varieties, small errors, and rarities that collectors now cherish. Some coins from this year feature minor double dies, misaligned dies, or weak strikes, which over time have grown significantly in collector interest. More than just a piece of currency, the 1979 penny holds a place in history, representing the last full year before the dramatic shifts of the 1980s in U.S. coinage and economy. For the seasoned numismatist and the casual enthusiast alike, the 1979 Lincoln cent becomes more than a coin. It becomes a marker of time, a cultural artifact, and a tangible link to a nation's past. In this video, we will break down the full history of the 1979 Lincoln penny, from its metal composition changes to the transition from high copper to zinc alloy in the early 1980s, from the minting process at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints to the production of proof coins at San Francisco. We will explore the evolution of the design, its symbolism, and how collectors today identify high-grade examples that can sell for premiums at auction. We will also look at the legacy of Abraham Lincoln on coinage, and how this cent preserved his memory in everyday transactions across the country. By the time we reach the end of this deep dive, you will not only understand the value of the 1979 Lincoln penny, but also appreciate the role it played in American life, from school vending machines to veterans who saved them during military service. This coin was present in person. Now, decades later, it sits quietly.
Today, we take a deep dive into the history and value of a humble, yet fascinating piece of American coinage, the 1977 Lincoln penny. This coin might seem like just another cent at first glance, but when you look deeper, it carries with it decades of history. Economic transition, design evolution, minting practices, and collector significance. To truly appreciate the 1977 penny, we begin by stepping back into the social and economic atmosphere of the late 1970s. America was still adjusting to post-Vietnam realities. The Watergate scandal had left its mark. Inflation was becoming a growing concern, and industries were shifting in ways that would define the next decade. Amid all of this, the Denver Mint struck millions of these copper pennies, featuring the familiar bust of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, designed by Victor David Brenner in 1909 to commemorate Lincoln's 100th birthday. The portrait remained unchanged even in 1977, because it had become iconic to generations of Americans. The reverse still carried the Lincoln Memorial, which was introduced in 1959, replacing the original wheat ears. The memorial design added a small yet meaningful detail. If you look closely with magnification, you can actually see a tiny depiction of the Lincoln statue between the columns. The composition of the 1977 penny was primarily copper with a small amount of zinc, and unlike later years where the composition shifted to mostly zinc, due to rising copper prices, the 1977 retains its classic feel and sound when dropped on a surface. Millions of these pennies were struck, but as with any coinage, some carry unique stories in the form of errors, varieties, and high-grade examples. Collectors have reported examples with doubling, especially around the date and mint mark, as well as weak strikes, off-center impressions, and in rare cases, planchet errors. One of the most sought-after traits in the 1977 penny is a high-grade mint state, example with full original luster and little to no contact marks. Grading services like PCGS and NGC have certified MS66 and higher examples, which can bring significant value, especially in registry sets. For context, most 1977 pennies in circulation are only worth face value unless they are in pristine condition or display errors. However, even common coins can become collectible based on condition, rarity, and demand among numismatists. Now let's turn our attention to the production process. The Denver Mint was equipped with high-speed coin presses that could strike hundreds of coins per minute, yet even then human oversight and quality control played a critical role in catching defects. Sometimes these flaws slip through the system, and these are the ones that often intrigue collectors the most. Whether it's a die clash, a double die, or a clipped planche. Each variation becomes a story frozen in metal. Beyond the minting mechanics, there is also the cultural and historical context of using the penny in 1977. Back then, a penny still had real purchasing power. You could buy a piece of candy, a stamp, or contribute to a parking meter with a handful of cents. The emotional value of these coins, especially for those who grew up in the 70s, is immense. They were a part of everyday life, slipped into lunch money payments, phone booth calls, and change from grocery stores. They carry fingerprints of a time when analog was king and every penny counted. For older Americans, the 1977 D penny is a small-time capsule. It brings back memories of youth, jobs, cars, song, school, and simpler times. For younger collectors, it is an entry point into a world of discovery and appreciation for things often overlooked. Coin dealers and auction houses occasionally list 1977 D. Lincoln cents in high-grade slabs, and their prices can vary. What makes one penny worth thousands and another? Just 1 cent comes down to condition, provenance, rarity, and buyer interest. And while it may never reach the fame of the 1909 SVDB or the 1955 double die, the 1977 D still commands respect in the community for its role in a transitional era. So whether you have one in a drawer, a jar, or a coin folder, it's worth examining. Check for that bright red uncirculated shine or an unusual marking, and who knows, you might be holding on to a small fortune. As we wrap this journey into the 1977 D, Lincoln Penny, remember that coins are more than just currency. They're storytellers, metal witnesses to history, and tokens of personal and national identity. Stay tuned on LC Coins World for more long-form explorations into the fascinating world of rare and historic coins. And as always, keep your eyes open, your change close, and your curiosity alive. You could buy a piece of candy, a stamp, or contribute to a parking meter with a handful of cents. The emotional value of these coins, especially for those who grew up in the 70s, is immense. They were a part of everyday life, slipped into lunch money payments, phone booth calls, and change from grocery stores. They carry fingerprints of a time when analog was king and every penny counted. For older Americans, the 1977 D penny is a small-time capsule. It brings back memories of youth, jobs, cars, song, school, and simpler times. For younger collectors, it is an entry point into a world of discovery and appreciation for things often overlooked. Coin dealers and auction houses occasionally list 1977 D. Lincoln cents in high-grade slabs, and their prices can vary. What makes one penny worth thousands and another? Just 1 cent comes down to condition, provenance, rarity, and buyer interest. And while it may never reach the fame of the 1909 SVDB or the 1955 double die, the 1977 D still commands respect in the community for its role in a transitional era. So whether you have one in a drawer, a jar, or a coin folder, it's worth examining. Check for that bright red uncirculated shine or an unusual marking, and who knows, you might be holding on to a small fortune. As we wrap this journey into the 1977 D, Lincoln Penny, remember that coins are more than just currency. They're storytellers, metal witnesses to history, and tokens of personal and national identity. Stay tuned on LC Coins World for more long-form explorations into the fascinating world of rare and historic coins. And as always, keep your eyes open, your change close, and your curiosity alive. The Lincoln Penny from the year 1970 D can be extremely valuable. I'm going to show you everything you should look for these coins. Now, these types of errors and mistakes that take place on the 1990 Lincoln Penny can also take place on other dates as well. So you can look for this first error, a broad strike. Error taking place on this penny on other coins, nickels, quarters, dimes, dollars, and so on. This coin sold for $45 at auction. Pretty obvious error. You can see how it appears stretched around the rim of the coin. That is a broad strike. Next up is a 1970 D Lincoln cent that sold for over $1,400 at auction. Now, this is actually the Cheerios promotion. All right, so back in the day in 2000, the year 1970 D, we had cereal boxes, Cheerios, that had these Lincoln cents in them, and they look like this. This is an example of those. So one of 10 million first. Minted the year 1970 D coins. All right, pretty cool. Hasakoe with it, of course. Some of these can be valuable. In high grades, like this coin here, it's graded at a 69 red. So this coin sold for over $1,400 because of that condition. Now, if we look at this coin, it's the same exact coin from the Cheerios promotion, but it only graded at a 64 red. This coin sold for $45. So, a big difference in values there based on the grade of the coin. So keep that in mind. Condition is key for a lot of cases. Now we also have the regular 1970D Denver minted Lincoln cent. So it will have a D mint mark below the date. This is the high-graded version of that. It's graded at a 68 red. They did make a lot of these coins. So if you don't have a top grade, they're not really valuable. In this case, this coin only sold for $53 at auction. Now, if we look at the same exact coin, D Mint M Mark I grade, lower at a 67 red, this coin only sold for around $25 at auction. So, about half the value there. It's not really worth getting these coins graded if you're trying to go for that top grade. Now, if you're going for the Cheerios one, if you think you could get a 69, which is very difficult, you could take a risk. I actually made a whole video of that, grading a bunch of those pennies to see what the highest grade we could get was. So, feel free to check that out. Couch. Collectibles, Cheerios, penny, I'm giving away $1,000 worth of mint era coins. And it's going to be at the biggest virtual coin show. No, you don't have to show up in person. It's all on the Whatnot app, guys, August 29th. My show will be at 7:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm going to have 1G gold bars starting at $99 in the bin. Guys, that's like $40 under retail, right? Now, $10 under spot. Man, look at these coins. I got an OFC Center Mercury dime, 1917. That coin is worth a lot of money. We're giving it away absolutely free. We have a 1970 lamination error on a Lincoln penny, 1970D. Giving it away absolutely free. We have a die break taking place on a... That coin is worth a lot of money. We're giving it away absolutely free. We have a 1970D lamination error on a Lincoln penny. Giving it away absolutely free. We have a die break taking place on a 2005 state quarter. It's going to one of you guys absolutely free. Only on the Whatnot app, guys. You got to scan the QR code on the screen or download the app through my personal link. But that's not it, guys. Look at this double strike, man. Double strike Lincoln cent. Now, these are just the graded ones that we're giving away. We got other ones we're going to show you as, well, this one here, this is crazy. It actually has the outer clad layer with it. This coin has been split after the strike. That is a rare mint error. We also have other mint errors like the clipped planche. We have another clipped planche here on a wheat penny. We have a broad strike error. Another broad strike. Well, that's on a 1998 penny. A broad strike error on the Jefferson nickel and a partial collar on a modern penny from 2021 with the shield. What can make your 1964 Lincoln penny extremely rare and valuable? That's what we're looking at today. So definitely watch this whole video if you guys want to learn which coins are rare and valuable and why. And you can also look for these errors on other dated pennies, nickels, dimes, quarters, half dollars, dollars, and so on as well that can make those coins valuable. So let's start off here with a pretty obvious and pretty visual mint arrow. So this coin here has a partial brockage, which we can see there on the obverse of the coin. This penny ended up selling for $169 at auction. Next up, 1964 Denver minted Lincoln cent D mint mark. This coin has double curved clips. So you see that large clip and then you see that little clip there at the top of the coin, and it does have a partial collar around the rim of the coin where it's kind of thicker there. This coin sold for $84 at auction. Those are very obvious mint errors. Now keep in mind, these are very common coins to have, but if you have a 1964 with a D mint mark below the date, and it grades at a misstate 67 red, it could be worth some money. This one here, in particular, sold for $180. So, a 70 is the best grade you can get on the coin grading scale. This coin at a 67 red sold for $180 bucks. Now, if we Compare that to this coin. Same exact coin, it's just one grade lower at a mint state 66 red. So, a little worse condition, but one grade can make a tremendous difference in value. We go from a $180 coin at a M state 6 red to a $10 to $15 coin here. The coin sold for $13 at a mint state 66 red. So, huge difference. Very risky to grade common. Coins like that, unless you are very confident you're going to get a top grade. Now, here is a double strike, taking place on a 1964 Lincoln penny. It also has been broad stroke. You can kind of see around the rim of the coin how it looks stretched out. That is the broad strike. And then, of course, you could see the double strike very visible, there. This coin sold for a little over $70 at auction. And let's move on here to something that you can also look for on other coins as well. This coin sold for $55 at auction because it has that die break there. You see that extra blob of metal at the top of the coin going through Lincoln's head. Now, that's also referred to as a cud, so you can look for cuds, die brows on all kinds of different coins. Typically, the larger the blob of metal there, the cud, the more you can get out of those coins. Free silver coin giveaways every Tuesday and Friday night at 7:00 p.m. Eastern Time, only on the Whatnot app. No catch. Guys, free silver giveaways, plus you get the $15 credit to spend on the Whatnot app. You can purchase any product from any seller and use your $15 credit today. Download the Whatnot app at the link in the comments below or scan the QR code on the screen. All right, next up, something very obvious. I have found these from the bank. Next up, coin 1977 D Lincoln penny, gateway to the rarest treasures of our world. Today we're unveiling the top 6 most valuable USA Lincoln pennies, tiny copper coins that have become legendary since collectors discovered they could be worth millions. From wartime minting mistakes to design, mishaps and ultra-low mintages, these pennies transformed history into fortune. Think a simple penny can't make you rich? Think again. Stay tuned as we count down each astonishing specimen from that one-of-a-kind 1977D bronze Lincoln penny to the iconic 1909 SVDB and unlock what makes each one a numismatic legend. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss a journey into hidden worth all here on LC Coins World. Today we're diving deep into a coin that you may have brushed past in your pocket change. A coin that on the surface looks like just another penny, but in reality holds an incredible secret. This is the story of the United States of America's 1977D Denver Mint Mark Lincoln 1-cent coin. At first glance, the 1977D penny seems ordinary. Copper in color, bearing the iconic image of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial proudly displayed on the reverse. It feels like a coin you've seen countless times before. But in the world of coin collecting, also known as numismatics, appearances can be deceiving. What separates an everyday penny from a collector's dream is not only its age, but also its condition, rarity, errors, and the story behind its minting. Let's take a journey back to the year 1977D. America was entering a new decade filled with cultural change, political shifts, and economic uncertainty. The inflation of the 1970s had left its mark, and the U.S. Mint continued to produce coins in the millions to satisfy the demands of commerce. The Denver Mint, marked by the small d beneath the date on the Lincoln penny, was one of the primary facilities, producing cents for circulation. That year, the Mint struck hundreds of millions of pennies, making the 1977D Lincoln cent a common coin for everyday transactions. But here's the twist. Within those hundreds of millions, a select few carry extraordinary value. The Lincoln cent has long been one of the most collected coins in America, ever since its debut in 1909 to honor the centennial of Abraham Lincoln's birth. Collectors have been fascinated by its enduring design and history. The obverse, designed by Victor David Brenner, features a right-facing portrait of Lincoln, and it remains one of the longest-running coin designs in United States history. By 1977D, the reverse still carried the Lincoln Memorial, a design introduced in 1959 to commemorate Lincoln's 150th birthday. For over 50 years, this design would remain unchanged, until 2009 when it was replaced by a series of commemorative reverses. But what makes the 1977D Lincoln cent worth more than just a single cent? The answer lies in a combination of factors: rarity, condition, and minting errors.